Today in New York, a plot to bomb the state capitol is thwarted, plus teen gun violence in the Bronx, new anti-drone powers over the U.S. Open, a socialist leader's home purchase stirring debate, and a federal suit over sky-high rents.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Leah. Welcome to Laid Back Local, the news of the day with Leah and Garrett in New York City. First up, Albany woman accused of plotting bomb attack on the state capitol. Here's what we know. Federal prosecutors say 35-year-old Jessica Bowie of Albany allegedly planned to bomb the New York State Capitol and expressed support for ISIS, the extremist group that the U.S. and many countries classify as a foreign terrorist organization. She's charged with attempting to provide material support a terrorist organization. That means giving help like money, training, equipment, or services to a group on the terror list. Investigators say surveillance showed Bowie visiting the Capitol complex multiple times between July and August. That's the building in Albany where the governor's offices and the state legislature are housed. According to the affidavits, she discussed plans with undercover federal agents, and the FBI intercepted her before any attack could happen. She was arrested in August. Governor Kathy Hochul and state officials commended the FBI's work and pointed to ongoing efforts to tighten security, given an overall rise in political violence nationwide. This case underscores the persistent threat of what we call domestic terrorism, politically motivated violence planned or carried out inside the United States. It also shows why coordination between federal and state authorities matters. Different agencies share intelligence, track risks, and can move quickly to neutralize threats. One important note: these are allegations at this stage. Bowie is innocent unless proven guilty in court. The timeline and the surveillance details give a sense of how seriously officials took it. For people who work in and around the Capitol or anyone visiting Albany, I get how unsettling this is. Security there is layered: state police, building security, and, when needed, federal partners. That joint posture is the point. Catch plans before they become actions.
Yeah, relief is the word. I'm glad the FBI and state folks got ahead of it. That's the best case scenario when you're talking about an alleged bombing plot. It's a reminder to stay alert without getting panicked. If something feels off in a government building or a public space, say something to security. And just to put a fine point on it, targeting an extremist group like ISIS isn't a comment on the millions of peaceful Muslims who call New York home. It's about behavior and criminal intent, not anyone's faith. Stay vigilant, stay kind. Both can be true. Next up, NYPD hunts for teen suspects in Bronx fatal shootings. Police are looking for two 16-year-olds linked to two separate deadly shootings this month. In August, 16-year-old John Nunez was killed near Crotona Park, and days later, 15-year-old Riley Billingsley was killed in Kingsbridge Heights. Investigators say these incidents involved groups of teens handling guns in apartments, which is, not gonna lie, just gutting to even say out loud. There's a policy backdrop here. New York's Raise the Age law from 2017 moved most 16 and 17-year-old cases out of adult criminal court into family court, which focuses more on rehabilitation than punishment. Experts and officials are split on its impact. The Bronx District Attorney, Darcel Clark, the county's top prosecutor, has called for tweaks to better address teen gun possession. And the NYPD says teen-involved shootings are up this year, with a striking stat that more teenagers have been arrested for fatal shootings this year than any other age group. That's a curveball, and not in a good way. This is where it's messy. You've got a law meant to keep young people out of the adult system, because that can have lifetime consequences for jobs, school, and housing. But you also have guns in living rooms and teens dying. I think it's fair to ask if the tools we gave courts and prosecutors are matching the reality on the ground. That doesn't mean throw the whole thing out. It could mean targeted changes, like clearer lines on serious gun possession cases, while still keeping services for kids who can be steered away from bad paths.
Totally with you on the complexity. Two families have lost kids, and whole neighborhoods feel that loss. Real talk. Prevention has to be more than a slogan. That means outreach workers, after-school programs that actually hold attention, and consequences that fit the risk when guns are involved. When people mention revising Raise the Age, I hear a need for precision. Keep rehabilitation where it works, and create clear pathways to handle repeat or high-risk gun cases swiftly. If listeners are wondering why these tragedies keep happening, the short answer is access to guns mixed with unresolved community stress. The long answer is the full stack: housing security, mental health, school support, job pipelines, all of it. Next up, NYPD to deploy new powers against unauthorized drones at the U.S. Open. This is new. Under the Safer Skies Act, a regulation that took effect in July, the NYPD can independently neutralize unauthorized drones. Neutralize means they can detect, disrupt, and even redirect a drone that's flying where it shouldn't. They'll be using electromagnetic signals, basically radio wave tech that talks to the drone's controls, to nudge or push it away from the tennis center in Queens. Commissioner Jessica Tisch said the department's counter-drone team will handle this on their own for the first time. Before, they did it alongside federal partners. The U.S. Open is expecting around 1.2 million attendees over the tournament, so security is leveling up across the board. Big, visible presence, bomb squads on standby, and screening checkpoints. This is the 146th U.S. Open at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center, and it's one of the world's biggest tennis events, so the stakes are high. A quick definition check. When you hear drone mitigation, think of it like traffic control for the sky. Legal tools and technology to keep aircraft, even small hobby drones, out of restricted airspace. What's especially notable is this is reportedly the first time a state or local agency in the U.S. will run those neutralization operations on its own. That's a leap in law enforcement tech, and it'll be watched closely by other cities hosting big events.
I'm down for proactive safety at a huge event, especially with that many people packed into Flushing Meadows. Using radio signals to steer a rogue drone away beats letting it buzz overhead while everybody cranes their necks. My small caution flag is privacy and scope creep. Scope creep is when a program quietly expands over time. Clear rules about where, when, and how this tech is used, plus after-action reporting, are important. Keep it targeted to the U.S. Open footprint and similar high-risk venues, with oversight so it doesn't become an everyday dragnet for hobbyists minding their business. Next up, NYC socialist leader's $1.5 million home purchase sparks debate. Gustavo Gordillo is a co-chair of the New York City Democratic Socialists of America. The DSA pushes for policies like stronger labor rights and public housing. The New York Post reported he lives in a $1.5 million house in Bed-Stuy that his parents bought. Inside the left, reactions varied. At an anarchist bookstore in Williamsburg called Property is Theft, yes, that's the real name, and folks there reportedly kind of shrugged. Some critics say it clashes with socialist values that challenge property and wealth concentration. Others say, look, it's New York. Prices are wild and a lot of people get parental help. Gordillo and fellow co-chair Grace Mouser defended his role, saying he's committed to organizing for working-class issues and using any privilege to support the movement. To me, the bigger question is less about one person's address and more about whether the organizing delivers on outcomes. Better wages, safer housing, more transit. If it does, that's what most people care about when rent and groceries are crushing them.
Yeah, this one has layers. Housing here is so expensive that even the phrase $1.5 million lands differently when a row house on the block costs that, which is not me saying it's normal, just that it's common. I'm more interested in the system than the selfie. Why can a starter apartment in New York feel out of reach even with a decent paycheck? If there's a healthy debate inside socialist circles about wealth and privilege, cool. Let's keep it grounded in policy wins and who's getting helped. Tenants, transit riders, the folks working 2 jobs. Quick why for you, Garrett. Why do stories like this stick so hard in the news cycle?
Because it's a clean narrative. A values versus lifestyle clash makes for an easy headline. But life isn't that tidy. If the organizing moves the needle for regular New Yorkers, the rest is background noise. If it doesn't, then the critique hits harder. That's something to chew on, huh?
Last up, Tribeca tenants sue Compass over skyrocketing rents. 2 tenants, Peter Castaneda and Haley Gelfand, filed a federal class action. That's a lawsuit where a group sues together. against Compass, which is the nation's largest real estate brokerage. They accuse Compass of monopolizing Manhattan rentals and secretly holding back listings from public sites like Street Easy, the popular apartment search platform, to spark bidding wars and create a so-called supply shock, make it look like fewer apartments are available, so prices jump. The timing is rough. The median rent in Manhattan just hit a record $5,000 a month. The lawsuit ties into wider scrutiny. The New York Attorney General is looking into rental practices, and Senator Elizabeth Warren has launched a congressional inquiry. One eyebrow-raising claim in the complaint is that Compass controls around 80% of Manhattan rental listings. Compass disputes wrongdoing, and remember, these are allegations until a court rules. But the point stands. If your nightly scroll on the apps ends in a bidding war, you're feeling these dynamics in real time. Definitions corner real quick. A monopoly is when one firm has so much control it can manipulate price and supply. If a brokerage can gatekeep listings, even temporarily, that could tilt the market. A federal judge will decide if this case moves forward as a class and what evidence comes in. But even the filing signals pressure for more transparent listing practices and tougher enforcement when agents or firms play fast and loose with supply.
Not gonna lie, the rent pain is real. If the court finds that any major player engineered scarcity to juice prices, that's a no-go for me. Tenants deserve a fair shot at the full market without shell games. Regulatory fixes could look like mandatory, timely syndication of listings to public portals, audit trails that show when and where a unit is posted, and real penalties if firms hide the ball. We'll see what the judge does, but I think sunlight, clean, verifiable data, is the fastest way to cool bidding wars that feed on confusion.
All right, that ties it up nicely. From safety in Albany and Queens to housing policy and street-level reality, a lot moving at once.
Thanks for tuning in to Laid Back Local, the news of the day with Leah and Garrett. Stay safe, New York, and catch us again tomorrow.